We're live. Be Better, episode 48. Back in the studio. Back recording with another one of Jacob's friends. Before we get to him, we are going to, of course, shout out SubZeroPlunge.com, the best cold plunges east or west of Mississippi. If you're looking to get a cold plunge, now's the time. Summer is the most popular time to get the cold plunges. Not too hot to sell in the winter. Summer months, it feels a lot better to cool off in the cold plunge. So if you're going to buy one, support my brother who owns a company. He's out of Austin, Texas. SubZeroColdPlunge.com. Code BEBETTER saves you at checkout. Jacob has brought another guest over. Kostya. Am I saying that right?
Costa, like Costa Rica.
Costa.
Yep.
Like Costa Rica. Okay.
Konstantin for long.
You flew in from Ukraine today?
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Just for the show.
Just
Long
for the
flight.
show. So
Appreciate you guys.
big sponsors paid for us to fly him in, which is great.
Yeah, thanks,
time.
Tim.
Yeah, what are you doing in town? What's going on?
Myself?
Yeah.
Well, Jacob invited me to share a little bit of the story. We have a little background. We had a special event we did last year in November 9th to be exact. And it was a pretty fulfilling moment in my life. We did a fundraiser for Ukraine and for the Luol Deng Foundation benefiting South Sudan. There's a lot that happened leading up to that point, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But really excited for the platform. First of all, before I say anything else, just a fan of the show.
Awesome.
Listen to Q's episode.
Yep, that was a good one.
That was
It
a
was a
great
good
one.
one. Really good one.
Met him actually a few weeks ago at a Matter event, Launch Chicago, and started hearing a little bit of his story. And then the event was kind of ending, so it was cool to hear more of his story.
Yeah. That's the
And-
first time I ever met him. I told Jacob, like, hey, you're going to have to lead this one because I don't really know the guy.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I'm pretty interested. Move over. I got to ask some questions about what's going on with this guy's life.
Suburban life. Dad's a chiropractor. Finds something in a magazine. All of a sudden, the dad follows up with that.
Radio. Heard on
Radio.
the radio.
That's
Radio.
right,
Radio.
Yeah,
ad,
I got a
yeah.
radio.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Amazing. And then actually went there.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a wild story.
Yeah. Well, to give everybody a little background, I think everybody knows, I have a couple different hats that I wear and strength conditioning, obviously. And then the other side is the nonprofit work that I do through Matter and for Luol Deng Foundation. And those things came together last year where we wanted to do an event to benefit the work that Luol's doing in South Sudan. And one of my old clients said, hey, there's a guy who I want you to have coffee with. And I've said many times, more specifically about travel, but like, you don't know if you don't go.
Right.
Like, you have to go and you have to experience things and try things and do things to really know. It's really unwise, I think. Sure, there's a calculated, like, oh, I think this will be worth my time, but it's really unwise to just pass on things because you feel like you already understand it. And meeting Kostya was one of those things. So this mutual friend of ours set it up. And we go and have coffee at a Starbucks, and we talk for like 2 hours just about life and his journey, coming from Ukraine, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then the work that he's done here in the States, and then his heart for giving back on top of that. But what we decided within that time was we were going to work together on this event. And, Kostya kind of said, hey, I can do this, this, and this. I said, okay, well, I can do this, this, and that. And then obviously everyone knows that event came together, was really successful, did really well. And that's where we first met. And so we've worked well together during that time. And obviously we became friends, and we still are. And I just wanted to have Kostya on because his story, Q volunteered to go to Ukraine. Kostya probably didn't necessarily volunteer to leave Ukraine, but he did.
Yeah.
And then grew up here in Chicago. And go ahead, I'll let you tell your own story.
Yeah. So my parents came and immigrated to America in 1991 from Ukraine, Donetsk, Ukraine to be exact. And I was 6 years old at the time, landed in Chicago, and my sister was 4. And they sacrificed quite a bit to leave. In fact, my dad at the time was 30, my mom was 25. And I have 2 girls myself. I know you're a girl dad, and you got kids. I think to myself now, I appreciate it. I can't imagine leaving this country, for example, going to another country with my girls and my wife, and not knowing the language, not having a plan or a job or anything. And the theme of this podcast, this show, this conversation is purpose. In my opinion, the purpose for my parents was to make a better life. And they did not wait for the perfect time. They just went.
Yeah.
And they sacrificed a lot. And so when we ended up in Chicago in 91, I was 6 years old. My dad worked at Domino's Pizza when he got here, and he was delivering pizza all up and down the suburbs. And my mom was a nurse in Ukraine, and she came here. She had to start from scratch. And they said, you got to go back to school. You got to, you got to learn English, you got to do all these things.
Right.
And so that journey I appreciated. And, now I look back and how lucky am I? I have English, I have an education. What's my excuse not to be successful in this country? And so my parents' purpose was the why behind coming here is to make a better life. And I think too many times people, they wait for the perfect moment. For example, if you want to have kids, I got to make sure I have enough money saved up, the right job, and then I'll have kids. Or you can follow the right reasons to maybe have a kid. And I'm not certainly offering people to have kids at 16 years old and not ready, but when you're mature enough, right? And all of a sudden, like for example, with me, when I'm jumping around, but when I got my job, my first one, when I had my daughter Rose, my first one, she's 11 now, my career took off in sales because I had more purpose for working.
Yeah, that's a common thing that we see is like once you have like oh shit, it's not just me.
Yeah,
it's my daughter, it's the wife. It's like I have more people counting on me, so you tend to do better when you have more responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And even I met my wife at a club in Chicago. I just felt in my heart that this is the right girl, and she actually happened to be from Ukraine as well, and there was a connection. She was beautiful. I was the first one out of all my buddies that got married, and we built a beautiful family, and we've been a good team together. And so
wait a second, let's back a little bit.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? In club?
Yeah.
What do you remember what song was playing?
I don't remember what song was playing. She actually
Casada or something every time we touch.
She rejected me.
Oh wow!
Dang it!
Yeah, it was a place called Crescendo. I don't know for those.
I've been to. I've closed that place down before with a couple of Chicago Bulls.
That's awesome. And so I come up to her, say, "Hey, can we dance?" She said no. So the way I remember it is, being in sales, I'm like, this is a little objection I got to overcome.
Yeah.
So I went and I was luckily with a few other girls in the group that were my friends. And I said, hey, come dance with me next to her. So I want her to see me.
Show her the moves.
A couple songs later, she saw me. I asked her to dance. She said yes. And I asked for a number. She said no. And I think the chase was interesting for me. But I got very lucky with her. And shout out to Rita. She'll be listening to this as well. So 3 months into us dating, my parents are finally like, when are we going to meet this beautiful girl we keep talking about? Because they knew that she spoke some Russian. And my dad's like, what's her last name? And I said, her last name is Trinker. And my mom runs downstairs, finds a photo album. And when we came to America, we lived in Rogers Park. But then we lived in Niles, for those that know that suburb, and they moved to Northbrook. And so my mom runs downstairs, gets a photo album, and she finds like when we were 8 years old in Niles in a park with a bunch of kids. And she's like, can this be her? And I looked, I'm like, I don't know, it's a brunette, maybe. So I actually called my wife, or at the time, my girlfriend. She came over to my house and she met my parents and she saw that photo and she's like, that's me. And my mom and dad literally said, we used to party with her parents when we came to America, which was wild. So it became an arranged marriage real quick, but I was all about it because she was great.
Sounds like you've been working on that since you were 8 years old.
Yeah, it absolutely happens. But the story of the journey of an immigrant, going back to that, is inspiring to me because they work hard. They know that they can't take things for granted, and I do feel like that's one of my competitive advantages, is someone that has seen my parents work hard. And I think a fan of the show. I listened to whatever episode 5. It was your birthday.
Oh yeah, maybe yeah.
And you talked. You asked some questions about
Tom episode.
Tom episode. Yeah. You said work ethic, and you saw the your father working, leading by example, and it's made you who you are today and successful. And so I'm a strong believer of that. My biggest fear now is, with my kids now, how can they're having a more comfortable life, right? Because I had a comfortable life. So how do we teach them the values? And so it's different. You can, now I could lead by example, but also talk and be around.
It's hard. Show me the son of a great man.
Showing the son of a great man.
Find one. Yeah. Like we have that problem with work a lot. I work construction. You see like a lot of guys who are really smart, run the crews, and they get their kid in and they just flop. And you're like, show me a son of a good guy who runs a cruise. Can't find them. Like it's like finding that balance of like, you saw the struggle, you saw the strife, you saw like you came up through the grit. So you're like, okay, I can appreciate every second, every day I wake up. Because this 20, 30 years ago, I knew how this was. It sucked, right? I'm not going to have that for my kids, right? That's why we try to do better. And then you're like, how do I give them comfortability and also make sure they struggle? Yeah. It's like, where's that line? Yeah. It's so hard because it's just like my kids, like I try to make them appreciate stuff. Like, hey, not everybody has a pool. Not everybody has like
Yeah.
a nice house and all that stuff. Like, well, our friends do. I'm like, shit.
You gotta
Like,
get
I don't know how to
perspective.
like that perspective. So we try to like go out and like donate time and like do stuff around Christmas for other families and stuff like that, so they can kind of just see like, hey, it's not just about us. There's more of the people that really need this that don't get 40 toys at Christmas.
For
But
sure.
finding that like line of like, hey, there is some struggle, and then you
Yeah.
create, who you are from your struggle is so hard when you make them comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, for me, I'm very lucky that I get to give my girls a lot more opportunity, but I like how you teach them that not everyone has that. And,
Yeah.
my parents, the smartest thing they did, and they worked hard and they saved well, and they might, McDonald's once a year on your birthday.
Yeah.
Ask, can I have an extra cheeseburger for my birthday? Nope. You get the toy and that's it. So you end up appreciating things. Now it's the opposite, where my kids eat out a lot. They want to eat at home. And so it's like, it's a full circle situation. But it's about giving them the opportunity to see philanthropy for me, which is what brought me to doing the first event that I did, which was to help Ukraine, and then also with Jacob to partner. My daughter got a chance to see that, and the smaller one doesn't understand yet, but
Right. So that one's 11, right?
yeah, 11.
So she can kind of grasp it a little bit. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And so again, with the opportunity that I was created, what led me to Jacob, and obviously here the ripple effect, the purpose, it's the fact that February 2022, the war breaks out in Ukraine. Not fun. And I was kind of inspired to, because a lot of people were asking me, because they know I'm from Ukraine, like, hey, how do you feel about it? And so I felt like grateful, but also guilty, because if my parents stayed in Ukraine, I'd have to be there. I'd be in the war.
Right.
I'd be there and displaced and whatnot. So I felt super guilty, but grateful that I'm here. So I went on LinkedIn and I made a little 5-minute video just speaking my mind about how grateful I am and how let's keep perspective in America. Like, we have it really good here. And one of my clients in the job that I do, North American, is where I work. I'll explain what that does later. He mentioned to me, Kostya, I know you're from Ukraine. I'm touched by your video. It went LinkedIn viral, I would say, whatever that means,
Okay.
not Instagram viral. And he said, let's do a fundraiser. And by nature, I'm a pretty conservative guy. I don't like to take a lot of risks. And when he said fundraiser, my heart jumped into, made me a little nervous. But I said, let's do it. And another woman named Elena joined us. And so Tim, Elena, and I, we planned our first fundraiser. And right away, it was, well, what are we going to do for this fundraiser?
Right.
And I'm a junkie for basketball. I love basketball. I guess you can't blame me. I came to America in 91. What was happening in Chicago in 1991?
Right. Bulls, Jordan.
And my grandpas who came over with us spoke no English. And so we had a common language of love and basketball. So we would watch WGN and and we were proud to be in this country, actually, through Michael and the Bulls and everything that happened. And so I thought, let's do a 3-point contest for the fundraiser, a networking event, which is what I do a lot for work. In office building markets, we do a lot of networking events. And let's just bring that all together and do it right and have a basketball fundraiser. And then it became, again, the purpose, what drives us, not the plan. So we're like, let's just jump into it. How do we do a fundraiser with basketball? We needed to find a venue and then basketball court, number one. We were looking at high school gyms, churches, but then I thought, I want to raise a lot of money. A lot of my buildings are downtown. We got to find something sexy downtown. Looked at 167 Green Street, which was our venue for year 2, but it was a little expensive, and we didn't even know if one person would show up, so we couldn't commit to doing a fundraiser. So we luckily got the old post office, which is a $1 billion renovation office building. You familiar with the old post office building?
A little bit.
Yeah. They have this beautiful rooftop 360 view of it's on, I think, like the 20th floor, and it was a great venue for that. And then
there's a basketball court up there.
There's a basketball court up there for the 3-point contest. And then I'm like, oh, I need basketballs. So I need 50 basketballs. What do we do?
50. That's a lot of shots.
So 3-point contest, you need 25 balls, 5 racks, 5 balls per rack. And so
Tom's a big basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know much about basketball. I know me and Jordan have the same birthday. That's about it.
That's good. Good birthday. So long story short, we got we had to get the basketballs. I own 25 basketballs. You may ask, why the hell do you own 25 basketballs?
Because you're a baller.
I'm a baller. I created a few years ago a goal of mine that I'm still trying to achieve, and it's to make a perfect round. So make 25 out of 25 shots.
Oh, and like a 3-point contest.
Three-point contest, yeah. And so I bought the basketballs. I built the racks because on Amazon and other places they don't sell. You need the rack to have 5 balls across. They only sell 4, so I had to build them myself. And so we got 50 basketballs, 25 are mine. Then another bunch of friends of mine got the other.
Yeah.
And we got that going, and then we needed an MC. And I went to a wedding a month before the event, and I saw this guy. His name's Team John Hill. John Hill. He actually did our event this past November, and we did a really nice fundraiser, and it was all about striving to make it special. And it ended up getting 200 plus people up there. We got $45,000 raised.
Damn.
And the most fulfilling thing for me was, wow, this all started with purpose. This wasn't a perfect plan. We just jumped into it because we wanted to do good. And we donated money to the Chicago Sister Cities charities, which was refugees coming from Ukraine to Chicago. And I felt connected to that because if my parents didn't get some assistance as immigrants.
If you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
what prompted your parents to leave when they did? I mean, I know you said it was a better opportunity, but was it economic instability? Was it some sort of conflict? Was it a combination thereof? I'm just uneducated.
Yeah, when you grow up in a certain class there, you stay in that class. And so
why is that?
Corrupt government, communism, still lingering effects, anti-Semitism, a lot of that going on as well, and opportunity, waiting in line. My dad, when he goes to Costco, it is like Disney World for him.
Me too. That's how I feel.
It's great.
He's probably a little different feeling of mine, but I do love Costco.
Costco's the best.
I love it.
Imagine going from waiting in line for bread and sausage to
Costco.
Right.
The abundance. He smiles.
Welcome to America. Here's Costco. Abundance.
Yeah, it's so just more opportunity. And my uncle, got to give a shout out to my uncle. He came in 1989, 2 years before we did, to kind of check it out. And he called and said, "Come over. This is a good place." And then, so 1989, my uncle came. We came in 91, and then my aunt on my mom's side came in 93. So we hosted them. So our whole family came over here.
Did your mom end up being a nurse here as well? Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't even mention that, but she started. I started saying what she had to do to sacrifice, and then she became working at North Shore Health Systems and was the director of nurses, and she worked her way up. And so
it's awesome.
3 jobs while we were in college, paying for our college education. I mean, again, it's I pinch myself. I have it fairly easy, and I get to work with my mind. And yeah, I work at North American right now, where I get to work downtown in nice office buildings and stadiums, and we sell janitorial supplies. So paper.
Oh yeah, Jacob mentioned that.
Yeah, and because of that platform, kind of how I was able to use that platform was I was able to get a lot of fundraising happening because of all the vendors we work with, and a lot of the office buildings that I built relationships with. So that feeling of I need to do something because I have the platform, it was weighing heavy on me. And so year 1 happened because of that reason. And again, proud. And then amazing to meet this gentleman here because of our connection with Dean. Shout out to Dean. And, shout out to Lual as well, because when he says, let's do a fundraiser for the Lual Dink Foundation, I was kind of like, well, can we do both? And Lual and you very quickly said, if we can help 2 countries in need, why wouldn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was very, inspiring. And I'd say when he was there, he was super proud, and we all were.
Yeah. Well, we've said before, I think I've said on here, there's no, you've heard me say this too, Kostya, like there's no monopoly on suffering. There's suffering everywhere in the world. So, Ukraine, South Sudan, there's a lot of places that are going through it. And so, yeah, if you have an opportunity to help, and that's kind of the other part is I think not everybody's calling is to, move to Africa like you or trading your job for X, Y, or Z. I think your obligation as a human, in my opinion, is if you have capacity to help somewhere, then you should help in that way. And so for you're saying, okay, this is on my heart. I have capacity to help. I like basketball. I have a network. It's on my heart to do it. I have capacity, so I'm going to help. it's not that you needed to throw down everything that you own and then go back to Ukraine and fight on the front lines, right? Because there's people who did that, and again, also necessary and needed. But at the same time, like, you saw where your capacity was, and you met your responsibility and went above and beyond, to be honest. But you fulfilled that. And I think it's a similar thing with Lual. Lual saw in this opportunity that, now there's an opportunity to help out with something that he's been through in terms of war between two very close countries, lots of family, lots of interchanging or intermingling cultures. And if I can assist with that in addition to what I'm doing, then I should. And to me, I think that's it's a really high bar. It's a high bar to do the right thing, but I think it's an easy bar to spot in terms of when people wrestle with what's your responsibility. I think it's as simple as, well, what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out, and journey and do all this other stuff. Like, what's right in front of you.
Yeah. And, I had a lot of friends ask me, because I do have a full-time job, and, you all have a lot of things that you do. It's like, Kostya, why are you doing this? A lot of people are like, hey, you're busy, you got kids. And again, I think the weight's heavy on your heart, and you have the platform. And you know what? We all can build our endurance. You guys talk a lot about health and growth and getting out of your comfort zone on the show.
Yeah.
And even doing something like this is my second time doing a conversation like this. And I embrace it because I want to get out of my comfort zone. And that's the only way we can grow as people, is to put ourselves in situations that are, a little bit uncomfortable.
It doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, man. You know what I mean?
Usually I'm the one asking questions in my job in sales. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
So you were 6 when you came over here. What was that journey like? I mean, you show up one day, then you're in America, like start going to school, everything's normal. Like, that had been a lot of struggle. Like, you didn't speak English. Like, that had to be like super hard for a long time.
It seemed normal at the time because there's a lot of love in our house. My parents, they worked hard and they showed it with love. But when I look back, for example, all the kids had the cool shoes and the cool Blackhawks jacket. We're in Chicago. I had the Minnesota Vikings jacket. Why? Because it was on sale at TJ Maxx for 80% off.
Yeah.
Looking back, I didn't question it at all, but that's just kind of how I grew up. I look back at some of the pictures. I was not very fashionable, and my sister and I, but we had a lot of love in the house, and my parents started going on vacations. We first went to Wisconsin Dells.
Yep.
Beautiful. We got spoiled. It was such a great 3 days, water parks galore.
Yep.
Next year we went to Florida. And we went to Mexico once a year. So my parents really did a good job showing us vision of how to make it in this country. And so it was a normal childhood. It was a loving, normal childhood. Looking back, there were some quirks to it, but as all immigrants do, we have some of those situations. And eventually when they moved to Northbrook, the town that I ended up going to high school in, and I had friends at 16 that they want a Mercedes, they get a Mercedes. I got my parents' car, which I was so grateful for, and I still am today. But they showed me vision by putting me in a place where I can now think of myself as like, I could have more. And that's, to answer your question about the difference, why we leave Ukraine, that's the biggest portion of it. Because in America, if you work hard, you sacrifice, you swallow your ego a little bit, you put your head down, do the hard work, you can do whatever you want in this country. And I think my parents are a great example of that. And, I want my kids to have a more comfortable life than myself. So,
well, and talking about being better, I mean, holy smokes, could you imagine, as parents like we are, Tom, obviously, like looking at our family one day and saying, you know what, we have a house and we have some sort of a life here and family and friends, but we really think we can go halfway across the world and it can be better. Like, what a bet.
Right.
That's
like how comfortable they probably were. Granted, obviously different country, communism, stuff like that. Like,
yeah, but still,
but and be like, you know what, we can do better somehow.
How easy is it just to say, you know what, we're getting by, it's okay, like just kind of make that thought process, but they didn't. They were like, we're packing up, we're out of here, leaving all this crap behind, we're not coming back. Like, holy shit. That's wild.
and we're not the only ones, right? There's a lot of people that make that journey and they do it the right way. And
well, and it's why I asked the question, because sometimes people are forced out of conflict, which doesn't make it any weaker. I'm not trying to make that comparison. I'm just saying that sometimes it's not a choice. It's literally safety. I'd like for my kids to be alive, so we have to leave where we are. But there are cases like that where it's just out of ambition and willingness and wantingness to do something better for your family. And like, that's just, to me, that's just crazy inspiration, because you have people sometimes in America who for sure take advantage of the opportunities that we have. and they don't even want to get off the couch.
Mhm.
Like they don't even want to get off the couch to go to their freaking phone to go online to apply for a job that's also online. Like they didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And your parents like, fuck it, we're packing up everything and we're literally moving halfway around the world.
Yeah.
Just in hope. In hope it turns out better. It's not like they said, hey, we're going to give you $100K a year.
Yeah.
Your dad was working Domino's and your mom had to start over. Could you imagine moving to Ukraine and becoming a lineman again, apprentice?
Oh my God, dude. That would be, I'd have to, that's a lot of swallowing, a lot of pride.
They take time.
But I mean, granted, you do know a lot going there. So I mean, not saying that it's easy for your mom or whatever, but like,
I think that also for those people that come in and they don't have the type of resources, I kind of ask myself, I'm coach my daughter's basketball team. My parents never really went to a game because they were working.
right.
And so, but the interesting thing is, why do you guys, I want to ask you guys a question. Why do you think it is that I became obsessed with it and I didn't have parents that were pushing me into it versus my daughter who likes it? She likes it. But if I didn't say, hey, let's go play, she might not play. So let me ask you, why do you guys think that is? That sometimes the scarcity can impact.
Why do you like, why do you like basketball so much?
Well,
Or just
why did I want
idea
to
of
play
it?
so much if my parents weren't pushing me into it? So I liked it, but by them not, I guess, going to the games and
Supporting.
they were supporting, but not in the way that, like, I think of an American dad, how I will stereotype,
Yeah.
son, let's go play catch, or
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
go play
Right.
golf.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
That wasn't happening.
You didn't have that. Right. Yeah,
No.
right. And they're
Yeah.
not, coming to practice and watching because they were working. They were busy. They were doing
yeah.
things. And so, no, it's an interesting question because you kind of persevered regardless of what a lot of people would be considered almost necessary support from your family structure. I think about Luol in that way. Similarly, that in London when he was growing up, there was a program called Brixton Topcats. It was a youth basketball program, but you had to pay like, I don't know, the U.S. equivalent of like a quarter to go, right? The coach's name was Jimmy Rogers. He was really like big on like you need to earn your keep kind of thing.
Sure.
So Luol would like go like sling bread or like something like in the street to get a quarter so he could go to practice.
Yeah.
And like his parents weren't giving him that money. They weren't like, oh, Lou, let's get you the latest this. They didn't have like same thing. They were working. They were refugees. They were immigrants. And look at the obsession that, he took with the sport on his own accord. I mean, he used to put a weight vest on underneath his school uniform. This is like 12 years old and would run to school with a weight vest on because he just thought it would get better. He didn't see it online. He didn't see it on TikTok. None of that crap existed.
Right.
He just in his head said, well, this is tough. So I'm going to do it because maybe I'll be better.
Sure.
And it is a different mentality. I don't know why that was the case with him. And I for sure don't know why it's the case with you, but I think it's part of it's just personality traits because look at how you've taken that tenacity towards your job because you've been very successful in your job. But you still love basketball. I mean, you have a full court in your backyard.
Yeah. No, that was my dream.
Yeah, you obviously like basketball.
You just built.
Yeah, I wonder why. I mean, like when you said before, like you when you came here with your grandparents, correct? Like you guys would show the love of Jordan, and then in where you were at, it was like you could not be a fan even if you didn't want it. Like it was Jordan era. It was, and then plus being so young to start out playing, like it'd be different if it was you were 30. I'm like, I don't really care.
So maybe again, if it's a therapy session, maybe some of my passion comes from those moments that 100%. Are so pure and genuine from watching with my grandfathers and obviously the brainwashing of MJ and the Bulls.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that has something to do with it, but also
and also chasing, like just like I wanted my wife at the dance floor, I was chasing something that maybe wasn't as readily available for me, and wanted to do something that wasn't there.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, what made you chase squatting?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like if I stopped squatting, I'd be like slapping God in the face. Like, he built me to squat. Like my brothers are a little bit thinner than I am. Maybe a little bit thinner. Yeah. And they got big legs. My grandpa, big legs. It's just like my cousin doesn't work out at all. He cuts hair and DJs. Like he's giant quads. Like we're built to squat. I'm the only one doing anything about it. Like it's.
So how'd you get into it?
2 older brothers. When I was 12 years old, we had to work out 3 days a week in my garage or in my basement rather, growing up. And then I didn't want to get the crap kicked out of me from my brothers. So it's like, okay, if I work out, then I could take the upper hand, and kind of one of those things. Then it's always like chasing your older brother. He can
Yeah.
squat 3 plates, but I can only do 2. How can I
Mhm.
get to 3? Then when I get to 3, he's already at 4. And then it's, for me, it's like it's a never ending goal.
Yeah.
Like, when I first hit like 600, I'm like, that's great, but
Amazing.
700 is really cool. And then 800 is really cool. And then this morning I was like, you know what? 900 would be really fucking cool. Like, it's
wait,
like, it
this
doesn't,
morning?
no, I didn't
Oh.
hit 900. I was talking about it with my training partner at the time. Because he's like, well, what do you think the end goal is? Like, oh man, there like is no end goal. Like, maybe it's 900. Maybe it was a squat I did 3 months ago. Maybe that was the
don't
end.
let
I don't
age
know.
be a deterrent.
No, I mean, like, I've turned 31 this year, and I had the best meet of my life. And I
You are
competed for 12
the
years,
youngest old man I know. I love it.
Not that old, buddy.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just get that passion, and you just,
And then
it's like blinders,
And then, all of us can agree, and everyone listening is sports and work ethic in sports translates to work in
Mhm.
business and career. And I think sales career that I am in right now and the team that I'm building, I'm so proud of. And it's a lot of things from sports that you take on
Yeah.
as adjacencies and correlations to help them get through objections and
So
keep making
you went,
progress.
let's say, all right,
Yeah.
you get dropped into basically Chicago.
Yep.
You go to school, you go to college,
Mhm.
you graduate, and then what? Because sales, I'm like, most
Yeah.
likely you move around a lot, like a job to job, right? Don't you? This is how salesmen usually work.
I'm very loyal. So I went to Bradley University in Peoria,
Okay.
and I went for finance, and I wasn't that into finance, but I got good grades because my parents paid a lot for college. I got a chance to only pay 20%. I was very lucky with that. And so I wanted to make sure that my education wasn't wasted. So I did
Yeah.
as best as I could. And I got a job at Wells Fargo.
Yep.
And graduated in 2009 when the housing market was not doing very well.
That's the worst.
Yep. 15% interest rates. It was bad. 8% loans. Now it looks actually kind of normal.
Yeah.
A little better.
Yeah.
So I did that for a year and a half, and I had a best friend, Jeff Tar. Shout out Jeff Tar. He had a job at a company called Airmark Uniform Services. And
Okay. Yep. I think we use them.
Yeah.
I think we use them.
There's a few players out there, and they're certainly one of them. And so he was really happy doing this outside sales role. So I went to Airmark Uniform Services, and I spent 9 years there and had my own territory where I would door knock restaurants and manufacturing facilities, food processing plants, trying to get uniforms. Did that for 3 years, got promoted to major accounts where I was working with other teammates, helping them be successful and then getting in to close deals. And a few people mentioned, hey, you'd be a good leader, and sales manager position opened up, took it, and got the Chicago main laundry facility on 4200 South Halsted. Enjoyed that for 3 years, got a team in Milwaukee, so I had 2. And Eric Dyler, shout out to him. He hired me to Airmark, left and went to North American, where I am today. He remembered me. We kept in touch, and he saw an opportunity at North American, where I've been at for 6 years. So I've really had 3 jobs on my resume, one for a year and a half, one for 9, and now 6+ years and counting at North American. And I've enjoyed sales because I think I have a secret weapon, and it is my curiosity. That's why I said this is interesting. Usually I'm the one asking a lot of questions and trying to learn. So I enjoy learning people's purposes and understanding their journey. And just like you're learning my journey today, my secret weapon is I'm genuinely interested in people's journey because my parents and my family was on one themselves. And so when I'm in a meeting with an owner of a restaurant very early in my career, I'm getting no one's signing up on contracts with me. I'm getting no one's moving forward. And then I had a meeting with a restaurant owner, and somehow he started telling me about how I said, why did you open up a restaurant? And he went into this whole family experience, and I just kept prying and just so interested. And at the end of it, he's like, all right, so yeah, let's move forward. And I had this light bulb come on, and that was in my year 1. I'm like, oh, that worked. And I wasn't doing it strategically, but it happened organically. That makes sense.
If it works, it works. Then you win both ends. You get your sale, and
I'm just
scratch
happy
your itch.
Scratch my itch.
Right.
Well said. I like that. And so I continued doing that with people and learned that everyone's favorite conversation is truly about themselves. And if
I was just going to say that everybody's favorite topic is yourself.
Sure. Of course.
And one of the things I try and teach my sales team, and it's hard to break, is, for example, if the 3 of us got together right now and I said, hey, how was your weekend? And you said, it was great. Me and my kids went to the pool. The knee-jerk reaction most people would have is, oh yeah, I went to the pool too.
Right.
And I just killed the conversation because now I just stole your thunder. Instead, I say, oh, how was the pool? Why'd you go there? Oh, how old are your kids?
Mhm.
And just now all of a sudden other things happen, and you get to know the person. They feel comfortable. You become likable in their head. And so, yeah, that's my secret weapon. And secret's out. And but I totally enjoy building relationships. And I work for a company that we execute the service, and that's why so many of my clients supported my philanthropy
Mhm.
events first year and second year with the Lowell Foundation. And man, was it special to be giving that opening message to my customers, to my vendors. My family was there, my friends were there. I mean, I mixed all of my worlds together in this one event that we did for a fundraiser. And when I drove home that night, it was eerie. I didn't have any radio on. I was just reflecting. And I remember talking to you the next day and being on just a high of how much impact we made and how fun it was when, the coin phrase is competition cares.
Mhm.
And when you can have some competition and do some good things happen. So
Yeah, man, that's badass. So what brought you to sales? Like that was a position. Like, yeah, I think you'd be good at it.
I needed a job, and
Yeah,
I went to a
okay.
job fair, and Wells Fargo was the only one that called me for an interview. And just like I had example with my parents, I was living at home with my parents, which I recommend everyone to do if your parents allow.
I still wish I lived at home. It'd be so awesome.
You'd have another Cadillac?
Yeah, I'd have 4 instead of 3.
I was living home with my parents after college, saving up money, and I was driving to Broadview, Illinois, so the commute was pretty brutal. My first job, but again, I was $35,000 salary, was excited, and grinded.
$35,000. Oh my gosh.
I was the happiest person making 35 grand a year.
Yeah, back
Yeah,
then.
No expenses at the time. Again,
Balling.
yeah, and so, and again, I always find there's always a reason. That job was tough. I was making 50, 60 phone calls a day, calling people literally during the day or after hours because we stayed open later when they just got home from work, and I'm trying to set up appointments for their mortgages and credit card debts, and it was interesting.
You probably hung up on a lot.
A lot of rejection, but it builds tough skin.
That's true. I mean, you're a pretty good salesman, right?
Yeah, and then you get to the next job, and just like muscles get stronger the more you do.
Yeah,
it became good.
Yeah, that's how you got your wife. Rejection.
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, if I didn't do that sales job, I wouldn't have had I would have been rejected, and I would have moved on.
Yep, right.
And I wouldn't have met my beautiful Rita.
Yeah,
it's wild, the girls. So yeah,
that's
that's why I got into sales, for sure. A quick thing about parenting. I have something.
You're the first guest ever bring notes in the podcast. This is awesome. I love this.
Jacob said you would make fun of me for that.
No, I love it. Because I always, whenever I'm podcasting, I'm like, there's stuff you said. I'm like, I'll remember that in a minute. And then you tell a story. I'm like, I have no fucking idea what I was thinking about earlier. I'm like, fuck. Sometimes, because I'm like, I need to take notes sometimes.
No.
But go ahead on parenting.
Yes. So opening message at the fundraiser that I was making, Jacob standing next to me, Lual standing there. And, I was telling you how it was cool to see everyone. And the night before, my daughter, again, leading by example, she's watching me practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm standing up there, and I did it like 15 times. And I try to make it 10 and ends up being 15. I got to work on that. Maybe I'll get long-winded. So she's watching me practice. And I think to myself, I'm like, Rose, do you want to say something during this opening message? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, I think that'd be really cool if you say something. And she's like, well, what would I say? So, well, what if you read off Luol Deng's accomplishments? Because I was going to celebrate his achievements on and off the court. And she's like, well, can I just read it? I'm like, sure. So she ended up coming up there with me. And you remember that it was one of the coolest moments. There's a picture of me smiling ear to ear and her confidently, courageously, as a 10-year-old, reading on that microphone the Luol Deng's accomplishments. And he enjoyed it. He was smiling ear to ear as well. And it was such a beautiful moment because for me, I'm like, wow, by doing this event, which was so challenging in my mind and so ambitious, look at the thing that I just was able to show my daughter.
Yeah.
Again, in different ways that we can make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And she did great, and she felt confident. And I remember a week later, she had this PowerPoint presentation. She had to show up in front of the class of 15 kids. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm so nervous. And all I said to her was, like last week, remember you were standing in front of like 200 people? And you had an NBA player behind you. You had this guy, intimidating, strong.
Whoa.
And you did amazing. And just remember that you belong, and you did that. And she...
Yeah, 15 kids, nothing.
Nothing. And so she came home that day and she's like, yeah, it went great. So again, these are these moments that by getting out of your comfort zone, taking risks and chances at the definition of purpose, that can really make an impact.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool that you like, because sometimes people, like, I've done stuff where I've like practiced speeches for like funerals and stuff like that and weddings. But usually I'll do it after the kids go to bed. It doesn't even occur to me like, oh, if they're a part of this, obviously mine are a little bit younger, so they're going to be a distraction.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, why'd you say that? Why'd you say a swear word, Dad? And I'm like, could you just let me get through the speech? Like, it'll be harder with them. But now that encourages me to like have them see the preparation, see everything. Don't just see the final product when you're done. Maybe even to be a part of it. That's really cool.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're both good dads and obviously do all the right things. And I think by having these conversations with guests and even amongst yourselves, you're manifesting these positive thoughts and talking them into existence, which I think is super special. I want to ask both of you, like, do you do anything with your kids that is specific and purposeful to help them be wiser and smarter, that is routine-like, whether it's weekly or every other week or daily?
So a lot of times, obviously, right, their kids are always a distraction, but like I'll have them build stuff with me. So if it's work on the car, like they change the tire with me, are they going to remember that? Probably not. But not the action itself, but just like the moment of, okay, we did this with Dad, or like you just came up to us and we were building a porch swing or whatever you call it, hanging swing, like stuff like that. Hand me the tools, holding the stuff, running the guns. Like they really appreciate that stuff, and like it shows them like how you put stuff together, how you got to take your time, like a lot of guys like throw out the directions. I'm not that guy. I'll read every direction.
Good for you. Same.
Before I get the package open, I'll just sit there and read it, or I'll find it on my phone before I get home, and I'll read the whole thing. I'm like, okay, and then I'll get it again. Like, so then I look like I know what I'm doing. You know, it's got a little trick.
Have you always done that, or did you have a bad experience? Where
No, just terrible experiences. Of just like, I don't need this. I know what I'm doing, and everything's backwards. Like, oh, these must be extra bolts. Like, you know, one of those things. Trying to build IKEA furniture.
You instruction guy, or are you wing it guy?
I've learned through experience to be an instruction guy.
Like I read the manuals in my cars when I get them.
Wow.
Like I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. And then like you find out all these features. You hold the unlock button twice, all the windows come down, or stuff like that.
Okay.
Like you start reading. Like I at least read the quick starts, and then I'll go through like some of the manual stuff, like the tricks and tips. And like obviously I'm not reading like the codes and stuff, but like that's just how I am now. I want to like dive into these things that I really like.
Can I quick? My dad and me and my father-in-law were building a shed 2 weekends ago. And I'm an instruction guy. And these two guys who want to help with their heart, they just want to start nailing things into the shed.
I get so frustrated.
So there's like 15 different bolt sizes, and my dad's nailing one bolt
it
without
doesn't
asking
matter.
questions.
Oh no, it's gonna matter.
And I'm like, this is the wrong bolt. But
see, I love finding the guy who's super detailed on YouTube. Where like they don't skip through it, they actually show them like drilling it in or whatever. Because I'm like, it's always something like that you think is going to be easy that takes an hour, and it should have taken 5 minutes. Had you just done it right the first time. And I learned that through messing with that old truck. Remember all the crap I used to change on that truck?
Yep.
Oh, I can change this headlight, and then before you know, you spend 3 hours in your stupid garage.
Dude, headlights are the worst.
Yeah,
that's terrible. Like the worst thing to change.
Yeah. But you find a good video online. They're like, oh, do this instead of that. Yeah. Lift this up, have this thing ready, and it just speeds it up so much faster. And so, yeah, I'm a YouTube guy for sure, if possible.
So, what's your routine like thing that you do with the kids?
I would say for me, I'm really big on trying to talk them through and explaining why. So I think as a parent, you don't have to qualify your statements when you ask them to do things. You don't have to give them a why then. But I do like trying to make it a point to circle back and say why, especially if it's maybe controversial. So, sometimes this happens almost every night. Kids will say, hey, I would like candy. It's 7 p.m. or something. I'm like, okay, well, did you have candy earlier today? I don't say yes or no. I start asking them questions because I want them to think through. This isn't about, do you want candy or not? This is more about, let's frame it into, does it make sense for you to have candy right now?
Self-realization.
Yeah. And if you haven't had candy yet, and okay, you're going to pick something appropriate, then that's a good decision. Let's reinforce that. If you've already had, a pack of Skittles and, 3 cookies today, then let's just wait till tomorrow because you've already had enough. And just trying to build that through them with all sorts of decisions. Even when, my wife is like, hey, you need to get ready because we're going to go to basketball in 15 minutes. And they sit there on the floor for 10. And it's like,
I know it's going to take you 10 minutes to get your shoes on too.
And I just tell them, like, look, if you just get up and do it, once you're ready, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. If you got 10 minutes left, great, go play for 10 minutes. You can do whatever you want. Nobody's going to be upset at you.
For sure.
But if you wait around now, like, just try to talk them through those things. I think that's been helpful. And I'd say one more thing, it's kind of in the same vein. Talk them through things beforehand. I think one of the hardest things for kids is the abrupt change. And again, I'm not saying as a parent you have
Big
to
time.
do that. I'm just saying that there's a lot of times where as a parent, if you would have just said, hey, in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, we're going to do X, Y, or Z, it goes over a lot easier than if you just walk in the room and say now. And again, it's not that you owe that to your kids. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that kids are a lot smarter, I think, than we give them credit for. And just like none of us like abrupt change either. Nobody would like for, Huck Finn to burst through that door right now and say, we're doing this podcast right now. Like, it's like, oh, God, like, stop interrupting us. We have things that we want to get done, right?
Sure.
They're little humans too. They have that. So the point is, I think if you can build some of that thought process in, I think it's helpful.
Yeah. And for me, there's literally 2 things, and I wrote them down because I wanted to include them because I think this is good knowledge for anyone listening, any dads out there and moms, is every time I drive to daycare with my little one, and I used to do it with my older one, I say, Fiona, what are those 4 things? And I said, and she now says, I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm beautiful, and I can do anything I put my mind to. Now, the last part, she keeps saying, I could do anything I want. But I'm saying I could do anything I put my mind to. And the other thing, I actually saw it on an Instagram video, which is great. And I was like, that's so simple. If your daughter runs up to you right now, she says, Papa, what do you think of this painting that I just drew? Before, what I would say is, oh, that's really beautiful. So now she's looking for confidence externally. Instead, what you should do is, Papa, what do you think of this beautiful painting or this painting I drew? I'll say, what do you think? And she'll say, this is one of my favorite ones. And I'll just mimic and I'll say, I agree. And now she's looking for confidence internally and she can build her own self-esteem. And if you do that with really everything, this is a really good way to condition a child from a young age to not worry about what others think and worry about what you think.
Super important for girls.
Yeah,
that's a good point because just kind of go like really simplifies it. If you don't tell them you love them, someone else will, and they'll lie.
Yeah,
and that's what I like. Not today. Like,
not today.
I tell my girls all the time. My joke around here is, guess what? I love you. I know, Dad. It's not a secret because, like, guess what? Like, what we're gonna do? I love you. I know. I'm like, okay, it's awesome. Right? Yeah. Because like that's we try to practice that stuff as well. Is like teach them like you don't need a big one we do is one you said what you just said. I'm like I want to practice that because that's makes them internalize the beauty as opposed to give me satisfaction. We make them know this for that. Like, okay, I did this, now I deserve that. Because a boy's gonna come along and said, I did this, do that. I took it in the movie, now I get like I'm like, so we try to just diminish that as well. Like, it's not a this for that. Just because you did this doesn't mean you get this. Like, it's not how that works.
Yeah.
Like, that's just life.
100%.
Sometimes it's not fair, because the comfortability, like we talked about in the beginning of this podcast, like they just get comfortable, everything's too easy. So
too
it's
easy.
Like, nope, it's not an even exchange all the time because
I like
I'm
that.
I'm worried about all these 16-year-old boys in about 10 years.
Well,
and you in about 5.
Yeah.
Well, and this has nothing to do with parenting, but it's actually similar in coaching. Next level coaching, like if Tom was to do a squat, and he would never say this because he's an elite world record holder, but let's say Tom was a mid-level squatter, a newer squatter, he might get finished with a squat and look at me as a coach and say, what do you think? And I've always, the first thing I said the same thing. Well, what do you think?
What do you think? Yeah.
Because you understanding how that feels and being able to think through it, process it, and then define it is way more important than what I think. Because I can tell you all day right and wrong, but unless you understand that and comprehend it within yourself, it doesn't matter. It's just going to bounce off the walls.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think it's a similar thing in parenting. It's a really interesting parallel because it's a higher level of coaching, and I think it's a higher level of parenting.
Yeah.
And we say this all the time, like, people say kids have changed. Kids have changed. They haven't changed. Kids are kids. Parents have changed. Parents have
100%.
become less involved. They've become less responsibility oriented. They've been putting the job of parenting off to everyone else, and they're not having these conversations that we're having now. And I'm not saying that all of us are the best parents of all time. I'm just saying that at least we care enough to sit and think and talk about it. Yeah. And how many people they come home, they throw an iPad in their kid's face, and then they go watch, Tom's favorite sport, football, all the time.
Yeah.
Or basketball.
It's easy to sleep in. It's easy to come home tired mentally from a hard work day and take those discounted approaches.
Yeah, right. Give the babysitter iPad. Like we've been guilty of it in the past, and now like we've like strategically got ourselves like, no, we're not doing that. They can have one movie or whatever. Like on a Sunday morning, I'm trying to like reinstill like almost like we don't really do TVs during the week, but like remember Saturday morning cartoons, Sunday morning cartoons, like till 10, and then it was like.
It's
don't
off.
know,
You're going
some
outside.
other
Yeah.
terrible show was on that you hated when as a kid. I'm like, let's just do that again. Like,
Yeah.
you can have it till 10,
Yeah.
and then it's over. It's done.
You asked me earlier how it was in America. I forgot to mention this amazing thing. I learned the culture through Full House, Family Matters,
Yeah.
those shows,
Yeah.
Saved by the Bell.
Yep.
That is how I learned. Home Alone, Kevin McAllister was my idol. You know, as a kid.
That was
This is
Chicago,
how I
right?
learned.
Yeah, Chicago-based house.
Exactly. So I digress. But yes, that is how we learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes those Saturday morning cartoons are great.
Yeah, but we would see it really quickly with our kids. Like, as soon as you took it away, even if we would give the 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you took it away, it's like, who are you? Like, what is this thing? It's like a crack baby. Like, what you like?
Yeah.
You took it away, it's like thing, and you're like, it would take like an hour to be like, okay, let's go outside. And I'm
Yeah.
like, we can't do this anymore. Like, it wasn't even so much what they're watching, because it was like we monitored it really well. Like, we typically didn't leave them alone with the iPad, but it was just like that. Whatever attraction to the screens, like it just sucked them in, probably like it does to us. You know,
Well,
it's the same thing, but
yeah.
smaller minds.
You know, if I want to play armchair psychologist for a second, my guess would be that one of the difference between us, our generation, and theirs is that iPads are so much easier to use and they're more customizable towards what they like.
Oh
When
yeah,
we were growing
algorithms,
up,
right? Yeah,
when we were
Yeah.
growing up, we would watch whatever was on TV.
Sure.
That was
Yeah.
it. And so if it wasn't something we were interested in, we couldn't just swipe up and, you know, click something else or go to a different app. It was, sorry, that's what's on. And so, all right, cool. I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm going to go do something else.
Yep.
And so I think that addiction part in the algorithm of the YouTube and all that, I think that's
wild.
made kids more kind of you know, Lord of the Rings, like Gollum, like, my precious, like, you know, I don't want to let go of it because
So you're saying
they're addicted to it.
So the kid that is not as addicted to it, like, that is a Renaissance person right there. That is a pioneer,
right.
one of a kind.
That's why, like, Dana White always talks about, like, some things that he says I agree with, but he's like, it's so easy to be great. All these people are weak. Like, look at kids, like, connected to iPads at home with the babysitter, and I've been like not alone doing stuff with their parents, not outside doing stuff, I'm taking them to go build a swing set, or you know what I mean, whatever. Show them what I do. Show them like a business me and Jacob created, like showing them all these different avenues. Like, just think a little bit bigger than your iPad. Like, you're gonna, like, my kids, like, you guys are gonna kick so much ass because you're not gonna be stuck inside. You're not gonna be stuck on a tablet. You're not like it's gonna be so easy for people to be great, in my opinion.
So
I think it's swaying back that way.
You're saying you could be the 1% fairly easily by just doing some of the simple things.
Yeah, I
and the
think so.
1% is the ones that can really set themselves apart.
Yeah. Now, will that 1% be a larger group than it is now? For sure. I think it's going to be a larger group. Maybe you want to aim to be like a 0%er, you know, but I just think it's going to be so easy to be great, because we see it a lot too with, unfortunately, older parents. We have parents that are not so much in this community, but in other communities where we used to live. They're just like, they're tired and they just throw the iPad, and you're like, and their kids are like super misbehaved, and you're like, dude, my daughter. And then another thing, well, before I forget, like ordering at restaurants. Like, I have to stop my wife because she'll like try to like, oh, she'll take chicken. I'm like, nope, no, we're done. Emery, order your food. And she'll look at them. Can I please have this? We can have a side of ranch, please.
Social skills.
Social skills. Look at someone in the eye. What are you looking at the ground for? Don't look at like, we'll give them coloring pages, just so we can have an actual conversation. The iPads and the headphones drive me insane when I see people out with them. But because we need that social interaction, you need to be able to talk to the waitress. Hey, I don't have any ranch. I don't know why you're telling me. I'm not the ranch deliverer. I go, ask the waitress as nicely as you can when she comes over, or when do you think you can get her attention. Then you can go ask her for ranch nicely.
I get Papa when I'm at Costco. Papa, can you give me that sample? I'm like, no, you can go get it.
Right.
This is literally.
I don't want the sample.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I want it. Go ahead. I guarantee they'll be really nice to you. You're really sweet and tiny. Like, you know, it's that's why I'm like, man, it's going to be easy for them to be great if I could just take these 10 things that we're trying to teach you and just run with it in your adult life, and you're going to kick ass.
Yeah, no, this is it's interesting to talk about this, and kind of these are some of my inner thoughts, but it's really fun to bounce it off of both of you.
Absolutely. I'm glad we're recording so other people can listen to this. That's why kind of the whole thing about this was like, I'm interested in some of this stuff. Like, sometimes I've done solo ones just on things in my head that I ran through, or I see a video and I just kind of go off topic and ramble on as I do from time to time. I'm like, man, I'm not the only one who's got to be thinking about this shit,
Yeah.
So it's good to have like-minded people like thinking about the stuff and opening up for discussion,
Well, that's why I told you about Kostya. I was like, he'll be a great guest because we had enough conversations, spent enough time together that I know how. I mean, look, the guy's got 2 pages of notes. Like, he's so prepared. Like, he really thinks about this stuff. And I'm like, for this style podcast and what we're trying to do here, it's important. And the other side of it is, what good is having some sort of, I don't want to even say influence because I don't think we're influencers. I don't think we're influencing enough people. But what good does it have to have any sort of people who want to listen to what you have to say if you're not trying to use that platform for something helpful?
Yeah.
And we've said many times, we don't have all the answers, but you're not for sure not going to find them by not thinking about it, not talking about it.
Right.
So you got to have the conversations. You got to explore. And I can't tell you how many times in my life that I've had conversations with others, I've heard podcasts or I've read books, and that sparks something in you that you would not have done otherwise. And so hopefully for people, that's what this does. I know the conversations do it for me. So
Yeah. And positive things to put into people's ears, from our mind. I read a book called Winning by Tim Grover. The gentleman, he trained MJ and Kobe. And there were some really good quotes that he had in that book that I highlighted. And in my head, I have a sales team, right? And this book is not about sales, it's about mindset. And so I read it. And then at the end of that book, there's a line where you could write your goal and then sign it. But then there's a bunch of other lines. And I thought, I'm going to give this to someone on my sales team. They're going to read it and then pay it forward to whoever they think on the sales team can read it next. And I think that mind share and positivity, you have to share it and you have to pay it forward. And I want to be surrounded about like-minded people, but I'm okay with not like-minded people. But if I choose harmony, I choose harmony every time.
Yeah.
And positivity every time. And so, the people that listen to this, the people that I know that are going to listen to this, I hope they're inspired by the dialogue and by the ideas that we're sharing. And even if one person is able to parent a little better, or maybe use the little tool that you mentioned and that you mentioned and that I mentioned, then that's great.
Yeah, that, like, it goes back to like the same thing of like, why do I squat so much? Like, it's like slapping God in the face if I know.
Yeah.
If I know something and Jacob knows something you don't, you just decide not to tell me, or I would have never met you without the podcast, right? Like, and we just keep it to ourselves. What fucking good is that? Because at some point in our lives, when you're younger, you don't really understand it, but when you start getting a little bit older, you're like, it's about giving back. Yeah. It's not like, okay, it's still, it's build and it's maintain and it's do all the stuff, but it's also like, okay, you have, like, for me, I have 2 decades of squatting experience. Like, that just happens to be what I'm really good at. Like, why would I not help every single person I see squatting? Like, hey, I want to be that guy, but I do know what I'm talking about. I have a decent amount of, accolades behind my name, but like, try this, try that. If I didn't say that, like, why would I hold that back? That's always been my.
Can I have a couple of quotes. I'd like to do a wine tasting with quotes. So I'm going to read this.
All right, first flight.
First flight. And I'm going to say this quote, and then each of you say the first word that pops into your mind afterwards. Okay.
That's fun.
First thing I'm thinking about already is Michael Scott when he goes to the weddings, Phyllis's wedding, and he just keeps trying different openers. That's the first thing I thought of. Yeah,
I like it.
Marriage.
All right, ready? First one. Here we go. First flight. Where energy goes, results flow.
Energy goes, results flow. It makes me think of risk.
Okay. It's no wrong answer.
I thought about Pearl Jam, even flow.
Cool.
Even flow.
All right, flight number 2. We're going to get drunk.
Sorry.
Everything gets easier when you stop expecting it to be easy.
You got to go first this one. I'm going to process this. Can you say it again?
Everything gets easier when you stop expecting it to be easy.
I don't know if I have one word, but what comes to mind is we've said many times, like Fantasyland is the difference between expectations and reality. So if you can shorten that gap ahead of time, you won't live in Fantasyland very long.
Just one word is be building.
Yeah. Be better, be building. Third flight. Crave the results so intensely that work is irrelevant. Crave the results so intensely that work is irrelevant.
I don't have a word, but it like flashes me back to like when we started our first company together, where it's like, if we get an inquiry, I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. You don't have to put the kids down, but it was like so intense at the time. Like, we don't have time. Like, I don't have an automated system set up. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have an email and I can email back. Like, I'd rush back to go to work as hard as I can.
And you were excited.
Yeah. And I was excited. Like, sorry, babe, I got to do this. Okay. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'd get out of bed. I'd go to my laptop. I'd fire it up to make sure they can get a program out. Hey, can I get a program tomorrow? Yeah.
Yep.
let's go.
That's
like,
passion right there.
Like we didn't have a, maybe it's passion.
Yeah.
Maybe it's stupidness on my part for neglecting everything else and trying to build this with Jacob. But it was just like that brought me back to like staying up late working the computer. Cause I'm not a up late worker kind of guy. I'm like 3 to 6 in the morning kind of guy if I have to be. So like it brought me back to like doing that stuff. Like Jacob, we got another one. Jacob, we got another one. You know,
People say like you got to find balance. I kind of disagree. I think that you can do everything 100%. Just do this 100%, and then when you're doing this, do that 100%.
So we've talked about that quite a few times. Is like they always tell us at work, hey, you want work-life balance. When you know, make sure you're 50% of this. I'm like, bullshit, dude.
Yeah.
You want 100% of me when I'm up in the air. My family wants 100% of me when I
Mhm.
shut that door. When I'm working out, I need 100% of myself, or Jacob needs 100% because maybe he's 80%, so he needs me to bring him up. Like, you want 50% of the time because 50% of the time sucks.
Yeah. Well said.
Like you have to be 100% no matter where you're at. Take your hat off, put a different fucking hat on, and go. Like, and nobody wants balance. Balance is bullshit. 100%.
I'm ready to do a squat.
You have to be. I'm getting fired up, dude.
All right.
Like you want me at this podcast. I want you in this podcast 100%. I don't want you half fucking tired.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't want 50% of Costco. No.
Costa Rica. It's okay.
I kept trying
Not
to say
the first and the last
I
time.
kept
My
trying to
name
say
will be whispered.
Costa. Like you don't want 50% of anything.
Exactly.
I don't want 50% of Jacob. Like if you're not gonna show up, give me 100%. I don't want 50% of Costco.
That's incredible.
We were talking about Costco. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
buddy.
we have.
Last one. You can pay the price of winning and succeed, or you can quit, stay where you are, and pay the price of regret.
Yeah, there's a cost to everything.
Sounds like your story. Your
Maybe,
parents. That's the first thing I thought of was the story about your parents.
Oh,
you
yeah,
could stay there.
Purpose, and
or staying where you're at. You know what I mean? Or venture out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a cost to everything,
parents, dude.
Agreed.
Everything has a cost. People don't think about that. Like no is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
To not do something is also a choice. It's an equally as powerful a choice as yes. And there's a cost to everything. Whether you do it or not, there's still a cost. Yeah. And I think a lot of times with real estate, that's where people mess up is they choose the no because it's quote unquote risky, but they don't understand that it's also a risk to say no.
Yeah, right, yeah, but it's a 100%. It's just it's an easier risk at the time,
right?
Because when it's not, I'm trying to think like small mindedness.
Yeah,
right. So really easy to say no, but it is a risk.
What's the worst that can happen if you try? You fail. It's like you fail and then you succeed, right? And you learn.
You know, that's what we were just talking about, like with the gym, like because we've talked about a gym since we've known each other, really, and we're like, well, if we could do this, we could do this, then we could have a gym. And I'm like, I'm really impatient, like. Really, really bad. Like Jacob's like, let's plan this out and think about it. I'm like, how about we sign the lease tomorrow? Like, how about we figure the rest out later? And he's like, all right, fuck it. Because I can kind of.
How fast did you get that all set up? I checked it out. It's amazing.
I mean, we got the from signing the lease to being able to have members was 10 days. So like I thought the hard part
mirrors
was
up, turfs down,
that was
equipment's
2 days.
That was 2 days.
Wow.
That was 2 days.
So the back end stuff, like that was, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the hard part is the setup of the equipment. And then we got into the back end stuff. I'm like, shit, paperwork, liability. How do you do this?
Building a website.
Who do I call? I had to call 3 different insurance brokers just to get insurance in the place. Like one quote was way too high. I'm like, man, this shit's hard because I have to wait for everybody. I can't just go move a piece of equipment.
Imagine if you had everything ironed out perfectly ahead of time. You would have never gotten started, which goes back to the purpose of you guys' dream to get this done.
Yeah, but it's like the struggle's like fun for me. I'm like, okay, this guy can't do it. Who can I call? Okay, my real estate lawyer knows a guy. I can call him. He said I can call him one day. Like,
you don't squat the amount that you squat without a little pain.
Right. Struggle. I love that, dude. Love it. That's part of the gym. We did it real fast, kind of get back to that, but like we did it fast, but yeah, it's like, what if we fail? Oh, well, like, you know what? At least we have a 3-year lease.
You won't regret it.
We won't regret it. And we have a really expensive gym membership. Oh, well,
nice.
But I'm like, oh, and then back further, I had to go, there's no fucking way this is not going to work.
Yeah, it's going to work.
Like this exactly what we want. We put on paper before we signed the lease, and we had multiple calls back and forth with each other before I talked to the landlord. Like, okay, this is exactly what I want. I'm like, we're gonna get this.
This thing is going to be very exciting for you guys.
And it's going to be exactly what we want.
In 2 years, I'm excited you're going to be opening up another one somewhere, if that's what you want to do, or if you just want to enjoy it organically.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm glad Jacob took you by the gym so you could see it.
Who's I saw hungry, humble, and happy.
Happy, hungry, humble,
or happy, hungry.
Man, I forgot what it is.
I don't know. I saw 3 H's and 3 words. Maybe it was wrong.
Yeah,
words, but
those are the right words.
Yeah.
The order, I'm not
hungry,
sure.
happy, humble.
Yeah, that was a cool.
Yeah, that's our buddy Dan. That that big watermelon head guy, a monster. Yeah, he's
Oh,
got that.
I saw he signed something as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it said fuck them kids. He signed that.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's what it said.
Yeah, he was talking about like the new kids in powerlifting, like that, just the general tone that they are bringing to the sport. It's pretty funny. But yeah, hungry, happy, humble. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. We even made shirts for him, and I forgot it. This was so
But
long
he has
ago.
that tattooed on him.
But he's got a tattooed on his arm. It's like that's his motto. Like he's like this refrigerator with a head, basically. He's 420 pounds when he's in ready to compete. 400-ish pounds, and he's just like happiest guy to meet, like a child. Like he'll like remember in Texas, he like pulled his last deadlift, and like he would like keep giving Nux this little kid, and gave him his little trophy, and the kid was all excited. He's like, this is the sport, dude, not me lifting this. This is the next generation. So yeah, hungry, happy, humble, absolutely.
And Dan's the strongest powerlifter of all time.
Yeah, that too.
Like in the history of the world, like
Ever.
I'm hanging with you guys, man.
What do you think Kostya squats?
I have no idea. I bet he could shoot a basketball really, really well.
He can shoot the hell out of
I bet shoot the
basketball.
shit out of
He can shoot
basketball.
the shit out of basketball. It's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you squat if you can shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
I got 4th place in the event, but maybe I strategically did that.
Well, maybe so. Maybe
Can't win the event that you're
How many
hosting.
people were in it?
We had 40.
You got 4th. It's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Well, did you have pro basketball
Luol
players
came
there?
up to me. He's like, "You're gonna win this thing, right?" I'm like, "I'm gonna try." I have a lot of excuses of why I didn't get first, but I'm happy to be 4th. You know,
He was a little busy, running and planning an event for 250 people too. So.
Yeah, that's true. It probably takes a little bit out of you.
Yeah.
I remember your calming voice that day. That was great. We had the Biden brigade. What was it?
They shut down all the roads for Biden motorcade in the West Loop, and our event was in the West Loop.
Mm-hmm.
And then our event started at what 5:30.
5:30.
And of course, Biden's coming through at 5.
Mm-hmm.
So people were like an hour and a half, 2 hours late. Some
Mhm.
people just turned around because literally we could see we were up.
Talk about
20
stuff you can't plan for.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
We were up 20 something floors, so we could see all of the traffic. And
Mhm.
literally, there was one road in the West Loop that was open, just one for Biden's motorcade. Everything else was shut down.
Yeah, I've seen those go.
And when we were driving, when I was driving in from St. Charles with the Matter crew, we were going down the like West Loop right there, like by Nobu and all that stuff. And I was like, what? There's like cop cars in every corner. Like they're not doing anything. They're sitting there. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on. They're just all sitting there. But that's what it was. They were waiting for Biden to show up so they could just pull up and stop.
And I remember being I'm a prepared guy, so I had a vision of how this was going to go. My opening message, which I practiced 100,000 times, I had everything lined up, and then I see this, and I'm like, there's literally no one here to do the opening message in front of. I come up to him. I would say I was covering my stress, but I'm sure you saw a little bit, and he was just like, it's all good. He was so calm. He's like, it's all good, Kostya. He's like, we'll just let the shooters go. Then when more people get here, we'll do the opening message.
Yeah.
And it worked out just fine.
Worked out great.
Yeah, I forgot what he told me about that. I was like, can you imagine the day of your event and right the time people are showing up?
And a
the
Bears game
road
that
gets
night,
shut
too.
down.
There was also a Bears game that night,
Oh.
Thursday night Bears game, which is
See.
obviously rare. They don't play on Thursday.
Dude, at Be Better Barbell Club ain't going to be no traffic shut down there. No presents
True.
going by our place.
It's true.
Man, that's really. But you overcame, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it was a great.
People
event.
got there when they got there. They didn't when they didn't. And
Yep.
Still an awesome event. And
Yep.
2 years in a row. No, because you did it at the indoor basketball place the second year. Is that you only?
No, it was both of us. That's
Both
what I'm
of
saying.
you, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
second year of it, right?
Yeah.
It was
The
at
first year was
indoor.
him.
Because you invited me, and I'm like, this is my thing. Basketball.
Come on, he's a hooper.
I don't know what.
I guess we actually did our own event separately year one. I did do a small event for Luol with the Bulls. Yeah. So then combined for
You guys came together on that second one, right? At the indoor.
Mhm.
Because everybody takes pictures there or something.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Sky
know.
Court. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, if you're listening to this online,
Just put a
just,
squat rack in there, that'd be badass.
it would be. Oh my gosh, that'd be sick in the game. Holy shit.
Bring a monolift in there.
I think they have a gym in that.
There
floor
is on
that-
the other side. Yeah.
and the view is probably just as insane.
Oh, is it the same thing?
It is, but
on
it's
the same
looking
level.
it's looking west. It's
Right.
not looking towards the city. It's not looking east, but still it's still really cool. Yeah.
Think about this full circle. Kid comes to America, obsessed with the Bulls and MJ, and gets to do an event with Luol, who I absolutely adored as a fan.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it was, yeah, that's part of my reflection. I'm like, I just can't believe that just happened. And it all happened because you have purpose and you follow your heart and the right cause, and good things happen when you do that.
Right. Yeah, there was no plan to get there. Right. You just kept following purpose, kept moving, working your way up. And then on full circle, you're shooting hoops inside of was this not the Sky Dome? What's it called?
Sky Court.
Sky Court?
yeah.
Sky Court.
Yeah, with the guy you watched when you were 6 years old when you came to the country. Dude,
Yeah.
that's
Super cool.
to
Sick in
keep
the game.
pitching yourself.
Yeah.
That's
That's
wild.
pretty-
And your
That's the
daughter's
thing.
there.
Yeah,
your daughter's there. Your older
giving-
daughter's there.
giving
And
a
by the way,
speech.
my dad, and my parents were there.
Yeah.
There's a ball that Luol signed that my dad has in his living room, and I bought him a case for it. And there's a picture of him holding the ball with a huge grin, almost as happy as he is at Costco. And it's framed, and he is his ball, and it's his moment, and he was so proud. And so when I come to their house, I see that his picture of him holding that ball that the wall signed, and that makes me super happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So
I bet you guys had a pretty easy time getting 50 basketballs next time around, huh?
We went to Wilson. Yeah, Wilson donated all the basketballs.
Yeah.
Things were the second year we had professional racks versus PVC pipes, which I had to build.
The Bulls brought racks for us.
The Bulls brought
that's
racks.
convenient.
This guy's connected. He knew the right people, and we did a good job.
Well, you're connected too because you got a lot of donors in, a lot of donations. So.
What do they say? By yourself, you go fast. Together, you go far. Right.
Yeah, it was a team effort. My sales team was rebounding. Tim and Elena helped out. We had sponsors up the walls. I mean, I'm so grateful for everyone.
No, it really turned out great. So maybe we will do it next year. Be better, and we'll squat.
Yeah, because I'm not shooting.
Every pound you squat, somebody has to donate $10,000.
I know. Better get a lot of big wigs in that room. Every pound you squat, that'd be a lot of money, Jacob.
I think people would pay you would squat them.
I've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and
That was 2 females.
Yeah, I think maybe what you squat, Kostya.
That
should be the event.
I need to start driving out here, I guess.
Friday nights. We
squat at 4. So leave the city at 2.
Probably.
You'll be here right on time.
I'm just gonna bring the family. We're just gonna sleep over at your house.
Go ahead. It's
That's
okay.
fine.
Yeah,
sleep at Jacob's.
Yeah, you can sleep at my house. You can sleep at Tom's house. You sleep at the gym. That'd be great for the kids.
Probably a little warm.
Well,
you could teach them.
Someone's gonna walk in. They're gonna turn the music on, and they're gonna wake us up.
It's your alarm clock. Nature's alarm clock.
We don't want it. We're just talking about we don't want his kids to have it too easy.
That's
kids
true.
Sleep in the gym.
Yeah,
show you what it's like.
Dan, can we get an Airbnb? That sounds good. We're out of here. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Appreciate you making the drive out.
Yeah,
shouldn't have been too bad, but
about 1:40 for him.
Not that great.
Yeah.
It's really cool that he mentioned you coming on here and you guys have done a lot of stuff together. So it's cool that you came full circle. And for anybody listening, we don't do like a pre-interview. It's how you doing? Here's my kids. Goodbye. We turn the thing on and we go. So I think a little bit of the curiosity what you have is what I have a little bit where I'm like, how did you were 6 and you came here? Like I just truly interested in your story. It's really cool to see it full circle.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me a chance to reflect on my story and asking those questions. Both of you guys are really great at that. And I'm a fan of the show, and I'm a fan of both of you and what you're doing. I've learned a lot of good things about you through Jacob, and I hope the relationship we keep building it and do good things together.
Absolutely.
You gotta come squat.
Yeah, you gotta come squat just once. I know it's a far drive, but just one time.
I will one time.
One time. All right. We appreciate everybody listening. Episode 48. We're out of here. And as always, be better.